Well, if you enjoyed part one of my conversation with the co host of the Bradfo Show, Cooper Leonard, you're going to enjoy part two. Now let's get into that.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast. And we thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider, Jake Ignaszeweski. And if you heard last episode, which was part one of my conversation with the co-host of the Bradfo Show, Cooper Leonard, you're going to enjoy this episode even more because Coop and I dive into some of his predictions for this Red Sox offseason. And also he talks a little bit about what he believes is the future of this team and when they could win the World Series. Let's get into part two of my conversation with Coop. Because that's the one thing that I see between him and Casas is Casas was the most mature AAA player, I talked to at least at his age.
I mean, the guy is chill. As much as like the antics on the field are weird and there are older guys in the clubhouse that maybe didn't love it. Like he still just kept doing his thing. He kept his routine. And at the end of the day, it was something that it wasn't showing up anyone. It wasn't showing an ego. The sunning was definitely weird. Like I believe it was the Zach Kelly episode that we had. We were right on the top step of the dugout talking to him, and Casas is like 10 feet away on the grass, just like laying down shirtless. And it's just like, hey man, like, if that's what's helping you hit 400 in the last stretch of games here, then go for it. Otherwise, like, yeah, you can't complain if someone's just staying in their lane and producing.
What I thought was so funny about that is, when I was working the game in Worcester, because I didn't mention this, but at least to you, I actually also worked for the Woo Sox at the end of the season as well. And so being able to, see the reactions of, people who worked there, who saw Casas all throughout the season, also see the reaction of what Red Sox, reporters were reacting to his debut. It's like, he did this every single game. This is new to us, him doing the sunning, all those routines. But, it was interesting as well to, hear how, players sort of came around. I believe Carabas talked about it, 2 episodes on the Carabas pod, saying that, once players really saw the maturity, and I guess he also did a speech as well after his debut, they really were like, all right, the kid can do his own stuff. And if this was, like you said, this is what makes him successful, do it.
Yeah. I mean, like at the end of the day, if you are not hurting the clubhouse, most guys I would assume are going to be chill with you. Like it's like very much like a neighborhood type thing. Like if you have your locker neighbor and you're not like annoying them, that locker neighbor is probably not going to go to whoever he's friends with in the neighborhood and like start gossiping about you. That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, completely agree. And another interview that I was really excited to listen to was the Xander Bogaerts one. And you guys talked to him a few times throughout the season. And what sort of feeling, I guess, did you get from him during that last interview? You mentioned it, or you alluded to it earlier, of it could be his last time at Fenway Park, but did it feel like that?
No. And I didn't notice this at the time, but like right off the bat, like we did yes or no questions with him to get like the contract stuff out of the way. And that's just because like every day he gets asked, like, are there anything new with the contracts, anything new? And it was the same thing that he said at the beginning of the year. It's no one's talked to him, and that he also just doesn't want to talk about it, which not entirely true. If someone's going to want to talk to you about handing you a couple $100 million, you're going to be all ears. But when Rob had asked him yes or no, any new dealings with your contract, he said no, but he kind of gave like a half smirk and kind of like looked over at Rob. And it was super quick because Rob just went right to the next question. And, I was videotaping it at the time, just trying to get promotional stuff. And later on that game, there were grumblings around the park that there might have been talks going on the last couple days, especially after that grand slam, where the Red Sox are really trying to bite on like avoiding free agency. And hearing that, seeing the video, I was like very much like at that time he knew that like he's in the driver's seat, that he's going to have the contracts coming to him. And it's already been said that he's going to sit on it. He just wants to go home. There were reports that I saw where people were kind of like, I forget what account had said it, but they said like they're going to wait until he comes back from Aruba. And it's kind of like, well, that's his home.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's his home, and also like Zoom and like I don't know, telephones exist, so it's not out of this realm of possibility. Also, John Henry has like one of the biggest yachts in the world, so if they wanted to do a dealing down in Aruba, they can make sure that he's in the comfort of his home when he signs that paper. So that's not going to be an issue, and that's not going to limit anything from happening right away. I don't think anything will happen right away. I think it will probably come right down to when he does about to go on free agency. But I see him in a Red Sox uniform in 2023. Like, put that on me. If you want to do some type of bet on that, I'd be happy to do that. Do a couple laps around Polar Park on a unicycle. I don't know, but I really like. I'm a hopeless optimistic with Xander right now.
I hope so, man. I mean, that's one thing that, Lauren and I have preached throughout this season is, start building that core. We see what the Braves are doing and being able to lock up these guys and for fans to have confidence.
Stripling, dude.
Seriously.
Stripling, what, was it earlier today or was it yesterday where he got the 75?
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was yesterday.
Oh my God. And
they have like 4 guys that are beyond 2030, and majority of, the list, I believe it's 8 or 9 players who are until like 2028.
Like 2028, and that's like the lowest guy of that core that's going to be there.
But that's the one thing too, is like
so long.
It's the confidence of the fans as well. And one thing that Chris Henry, I don't know if you've interacted with him at all on Twitter.
Yeah, Chris is great.
He brought up something very interesting, that especially with the Red Sox rolling out, or excuse me, NESN rolling out, who obviously the Red Sox own, rolling out the NESN 360, they're going to need, prime time players to be able to promote and market that. I'm like, that's obviously a great point. So they're going to have to pay up. And obviously what we heard from what Chaim said about, with Kike, we're going to be a much better team. They just really need to put all their chips on the table. And really something that, I believe that Carabas and, Coley Mick really put down, throughout the past few years of Chaim Bloom is, we're the effing Red Sox, so act like it.
Yeah. And I think Chaim will come out and spend this year. I think Xander will probably end up being the biggest name that he signs and the biggest contract that he dots out, unless we bring in a pitcher, which my golden goose right now of pitchers is Shane Bieber. That would be a trade that would have to get him here.
Yeah.
But Shane Bieber is so fun to watch. But realistic pitchers, I would say Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea is coming up. He's around that like 11, 12. That's number that Chaim has signed before, so he's comfortable handing out that money. But I don't see him like the Aaron Judge stuff. I can't get behind. Like the people,
it's just funny to throw Yankees fans.
Like, but like in your opinion, do you see Aaron Judge signing with the Red Sox in any way?
I don't.
Okay.
And also, the whole fact of, $7 to $8 million, where most likely 6 of those years he'll be injured for majority of the season. Like, we already know this, and it's just fun to, poke at. Yankees
it's fun. It's fun to play with the trade machine. It's fun to get like Yankee fans, like you said, upset. But at the end of the day, like, I don't see Chaim Bloom handing out $500 million to a guy, especially and not just like maybe someday down the road he does. But to Aaron Judge, no. Marcelo Meyer, if he pans out to be the next Mike Trout, maybe. But Aaron Judge, no. Especially like out of market guy, because then all you're going to hear is like, well, why didn't you do this for Mookie Betts?
Exactly. And, that's the one thing that, I thought was intriguing from the press conference that they had a few days ago, about how he sort of mentioned, I don't think where we're at right now, we're ever going to be in a situation where we have to unload a guy like Mookie Betts in order to be able to obviously reset the luxury tax, get some prospects back. And it's nice because I believe Chaim's going into, this offseason where he obviously has the most to play with. He has a ton of payroll coming off the books. And I feel like he's really going to be able to put his stamp on this depth chart finally after being here for 3 years.
And I'll be honest, I don't think it's him that's going to be wanting to. I think it's still ahead of schedule of what he wants. He's mentioned it before of it's not the Tampa Bay Rays, it's the Dodgers that he's chasing to be, which
Right.
I absolutely love because
I love it.
the Dodgers went through some tough years, but they've now been in control of the NL West for what, 10, 15 years? They
I didn't
kind of
realize that they
overlap it
won
with
111 games. I saw that. And I was like,
people
what?
just started tuning them out. Like even Mookie Betts probably started tuning them out. Like they just kept winning and no one really cared. Like they are a better team than that 2018 like Red Sox team, I would say.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
But
I was just gonna say, I'm so excited for the future. I'm so excited to obviously see what happens this offseason. We hope that you did enjoy my conversation with Coop. I just want to take a second to talk to you about BetOnline, which is your number one source for all your betting information throughout the football season. And you can find all your latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles on every game that you can find. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on every single sport and event, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now let's get back to my conversation with Coop. There was actually somebody who brought up a question about that, about the offseason. Kevin Bonzi over on Twitter, he said, who should the Red Sox target this offseason? Obviously, you brought up Sean Manaea, but is there anybody else that you have in mind?
Great question from Kevin Bonzi. I mean, it's free agents. Like my first question, I did see this on Twitter to begin with. I mean, like Xander Bogaerts could be that free agent signing as much as I don't want it to be. But I do think pitching is probably going to be the biggest free agent signing. And that's why I'm making Sean Manaea my guy to get. I believe Rodon is also going to be a free agent, a little bit higher value. And that's why like I go to the Sean Manaea. He's not going to be the best pitcher out there. By far not going to be the best pitcher out there. I mean, Verlander is going to be on the market. DeGrom is going to be on the market, I believe. Syndergaard. Is Syndergaard going to be out there? Or is he still locked up? Yeah. And then one more pitcher from the Padres. I want to say it's going to be Snell, but
I can't 100% remember.
I know one of the Padres starters is going to be a guy out there, but as far as value-wise, I think Sean Manaea makes the most sense for the Red Sox to bring in. And that allows you to still, tender something to Pivetta, keep Pivetta around, maybe look at Waka and kick the tires on him again and see what we can do with Waka. Because I think we talk about the Dodgers being slept on. Waka is another story that was slept on this year. He had an incredible year. Towards the end, he kind of faltered a little bit, but the longevity and, the consistency that he showed, I mean, in a year that all we had was injuries, he kind of showed up big time.
Yeah, I've
Though
said
he
this,
was also hurt. I mean, like everyone else.
I've said this throughout the season. I was very wrong on Michael Waka. I said at the start of the year, didn't make any sense to me why you're giving a guy who had a mid-5 ERA, $7 million. But boy, was I wrong, and boy, did it pay out. And, I said a few months ago, I would like to see a 2-year, $13 to $14 million each year deal. I think if you double his salary, there's no reason why he says no. And I think $13 to $14 million is fair.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
How soon do the Red Sox win a World Series? If you had to say, like, they're like the prospects that they have, the free agent signings that Heim could possibly do, what is the soonest that they can win a World Series? Is it 2023? Is it within reach next year?
I would love to see next year. 2024 is what I feel most confident in. I think once you fully get Sale off the books is when you're really able to play with the rotation, is when you're really able to set in stone some of those guys. I also think, especially, with what Heim has been able to develop in the farm system, I think it's going to be a lot easier for them to be able to trade different prospects and really be able to become that Dodgers team. But that's the one thing that, I've been critical of Heim about, and I'm somebody who, says on and on and on, and Heim we trust, is he needs to get away from, signing Rays guys. He needs to open
the diamonds in the rough that he loves to quote.
But, there's Rich Hill, there's Christian Arroyo, there's Michael Wacha, there's Tommy Pham. All those guys played for the Rays. And so, widen your net a little bit, start to look for more of those diamonds.
Get out of your comfort zone is what you're saying.
Exactly. That's the one thing that I'm saying. But yeah, 2024 would probably be my year.
I don't disagree with you on that. And that's what kind of makes me hesitant on like the whole he's going to spend this year, because I think he sees that. But I also know that Red Sox ownership, they love to do hey, if we're going to have a bad season, we've got to bounce back now, which like I can't fault them on, because yeah, exactly. Sometimes it works out, like in 2013 and 2018. And then the result of that is that you have to pay for it years down the road. And Chaim Bloom is trying to set something up, like we said, like the whole Dodgers thing, where you can have a sustainable organization, which that excites me more. And that makes me patient. I think a lot of fans might miss that. And that's not to like paint fans as being impatient or not understanding the game. It's more of just like, I have a different philosophy. I don't know. Like I would rather be able to, and that's also, I think, a portrait of, my upbringing as a fan. Like I got to see all these championships where I'm kind of like, I can pump the brakes if that means that I can have another run down the road.
Exactly. And, especially, with what we talked about with the Braves, with the Dodgers, you have to have some of these off years. So then you're able to get to those points. And, one of the next questions that somebody put on Twitter, talking about longevity. I hate the question, but I'm going to say it. If the Red Sox were to trade Triston Casas, which pitchers would you want for him in return?
Shane Bieber.
Yeah, Shane Bieber has to be.
So yesterday with Gordo, I don't know if you've ever ran into Nat Gordo on the Twitter sphere. He's a good dude. I like him. He posts some good highlights. He puts out the some good trade proposals. So we had him on, and he brought up Shane Bieber for, I want to get this right, I believe it was Marcelo Meyer, Bayo, and I think it might have been cash considerations or a third prospect. And what are your thoughts on that?
I would do it.
Okay.
I would do it. I obviously I'm very intrigued with what Bayo, showed. Marcelo Meyer, you can't put so much stock into him that he's going to be the future shortstop, because who knows where he could play. Mickey Romero is the 2.0 of Marcelo Meyer. That's what he's described. So
you could always bank on him.
And especially with Bieber, I believe he has 2 more years left in arbitration, that sort of stuff. So hopefully the Sox will be able to sign him to an extension. But I would be down for that. I always find it interesting with the trade proposals, because I don't know if you've seen Sammy James as well. He's tagged me in a few of those, but I'm always very curious to see sort of what their mindset is with those trade proposals.
You always get like it's more so of like a peer into the mind of the person that made that than it is of like, oh, this is something that can happen. For instance, for me, like I immediately said no to that, because I absolutely love what Brian Bayo is doing on the mound. Like his ERA, not great. And I'm not a huge like analytical guy that will be like, oh, well, you got to look at the FIP and everything. So like that does make me concerned. But his whip is gorgeous, and like the movement on his pitches, like they match that. And then also you get like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Pedro also saying that they all remind him of Pedro. And then like, that's something that makes me super excited.
And then when you add the Rich Hill curveball, I mean, but that's the one thing, like with me, I hate Dave Dombrowski, or I hate how he did things, because it really put Chaim Bloom in a bind when he first came to the organization. But I'm not opposed to trading some of the future for some immediate return. And that's the one thing, that was the mindset for that. But obviously super excited for Bayo in the rotation next year. Love to see Marcelo Meyer in the next 2 to 3 years. But I think that's what was also intriguing about what Chaim said during the press conference, is that they're going to start trading some prospects for some immediate return. And I just hate when, immediately if somebody doesn't do exactly great, Red Sox fans go, all right, we need to trade.
Right, we got a guy like Casas. Yeah, I mean, like Casas was ice cold when he first came up. I think he was only hitting about like 199 or like slightly above 200 over his first like 30 or 20 plate appearances. And it really wasn't until like the back half of his stint where he was like not even just like getting on base, but he was really mashing the ball, like racking up doubles and whatnot.
I mean, there's just a few guys where, in my mind, they're the core of the future, and then there's some guys where you can take them or leave them. And Nick York, in my opinion, is one of those guys. We're still yet to see. Yeah, don't even get me started about Jeter Downs. We're yet to see with Nick York, a few other guys as well, and it's going to be interesting to see, obviously, how High really evaluates the valuation of some of these guys. But one of the other questions that you'd find I think you'd find funny is what's the hair care routine?
It really not much goes into it. That's why I'm always kind of like, Rob, why are you digging my hair right now? Which I mean, I give credit to my genetics. Shout out to my parents for the hair that they gave me. But yeah, it's like I'll shower, throw a little shampoo in it like every other day. Like I don't shampoo all the time. And then pomade. Pomade's my best friend, especially in the summer, because if I don't put anything in my hair, like it gets pretty straight and like the volume kind of builds up. So when the humidity hits it, it's gross. But I'm cheap and I don't like to get haircuts all the time, so I'll let it eat sometimes.
That's funny.
What about you? I mean, you got a good head of hair on top of you. What's the routine for you?
It. So I pretty much just wash it, and I put American, because you made me think about with the pomade. I was like, shoot, what hair stuff do I use? I don't know. I think it's Amera something. It has Elvis Presley on the front. It's like a green
That's all
thing.
you like.
It's all you need.
No disrespect to people that put a ton of effort into their hair, but like if you have it, you don't have to do a ton with it. Like I don't know. Like you just gotta let it eat. Let it grow it out. Let it get gross, and then just play around with it. That's my recommendation for you.
Yeah, I grew it out in college and looked interesting, so decided to just go the shortcut.
I'm not sure what you did during the pandemic, but like going into the pandemic, I didn't get my hair cut because I was about to go off to spring break, and I was going to get my hair cut for that. That didn't happen, so I was kind of like, I'll save a little bit of money heading into the pandemic because who knows what's going to happen.
Exactly.
A year and a half later, I had like hair almost down to my shoulders, so it's quite. I have a picture of it like right before I got it cut. I'll send it your way if you want a little taste of it.
I want to see it. That's so funny. The pandemic haircuts or the pandemic hair is always the funniest.
It'll be something to look back on and show like kids.
Exactly. But one last thing that I got for you, Coop, especially with sort of your journey. I've actually never asked this question on this podcast specifically, but one of my favorite questions just to ask in general is, what advice would you give to your younger self? Especially, you in the position of not wanting to be in the job that you were in, and now looking at where you're at now. I think this answer could really inspire a lot of people.
I don't want to say take a risk because it wasn't a massive risk. It was a really calculated risk. In that, like, it was still a risk. I was still gambling on something, but I also, I had stuff lined up. I had enough ammunition as far as like in my tool belt, as far as like public speaking and, going to college and being able to like formulate. I mean, like, my political science background, like every class I took, it all boiled down to being able to have an opinion and defending it. I mean, that's really what politics is. Like no one is absolutely right. Hate to break it to a lot of people on Fox and CNN. You're not right on like what you talk about. It's just you're able to provide context and like provide an argument behind it. You can be both right and wrong, but it's a matter of providing your opinion and then providing like context to it to back it up and make it seem like it is, something that is matter of fact. So carrying that into like the sports world, and then also some of the public speaking that I had throughout my government internships and government work and whatnot really helped out with that. So I had background in what I could do. So I guess I don't know. Like, that's a tough question.
So I think you said it perfectly too, because if you're not where you want to be, what are you passionate about? What skill sets do you have that might apply to that specific passion? Because that's something that I
Yeah,
did.
so
I did the same thing. So
scratch the whole like fake risk type thing. I'm gonna say, don't be afraid to like pursue something that you like to do.
yep.
Because I mean, you people can make money doing like whatever you want to do. Like that's like it is tough to make money. It is tough to make a living out of something. But if you are passionate in what you do and you're actually driven by it, it it won't come easy, but it will eventually come. And it's just like it is that gamble. Like I said, it is that risk that you are going to have to take. So chase what you're passionate about.
Couldn't have said it any better. And for anybody who listen to this and wants to go and support you and listen to all your stuff, where can they do that?
Oh, so I keep it pretty simple. Instagram and Twitter is both Coop COOP_Leon. But also more importantly, go follow the Bradfo Show. And BB isn't boring. Baseball isn't boring. I could care less about like growing my own cloud. It's fun being able to grow projects that you're working on. Just because it allows you to do more with that. So if people want to follow that, people want to, give critiques to it. I also really appreciate that. If there's something that people want to see more of, if there's something that people want to see less of, let me know. I'll get that in the ear of Rob because I'm here to help out Rob.
I love it, man. Well, everybody go and check out all that stuff. Support Coop. He's got a great platform, not only with his own voice, but also with everything else that he's doing. And keep kicking butt, man.
Thank you. You
the
too.
Story, appreciate it, bro.
I gotta make it out to Worcester more.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. We gotta try and figure out a way to go to a game and that sort of stuff. And definitely want to have you on again and continue to get some of your insight. Not only throughout the off season, but during in season as well.
Love that. Appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely. We hope that you did enjoy my conversation with Cooper Leonard and got to not only feel a little bit inspired by his great journey to the Bradfo Show, but also got to help you be able to get excited for this Red Sox offseason. But as we continue to look back on 2022, we also wanted to be able to look at one of the most impressive minor league players that the Red Sox had throughout this past season, which is Triston Casas. And we're actually going to be interviewing Triston tomorrow. So if you want us to ask him any specific questions or bring up any sort of topics, make sure to go over and let us know over on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. You can also follow myself over there. It's at Jake Iggy, and also Lauren as well. It's 3 laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But we greatly appreciate everybody making Locked On Red Sox their first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, gives you his unique perspective and humor into every single episode to keep you posted about everything that's happening in Major League Baseball. So make sure to go over and check that out over on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. But get excited for the Triston Casas interview. And we're going to continue to be bringing you some great content throughout October and the offseason to get you excited and ready for 2023. But we'll end this episode how we always end it. Let's go Sox. Peace.